As I explained in my top 10 tips to master guitar, there's nothing that contributes more to your progress than consistent practice. That's not exactly a mystery, is it? But in reality, it's amazingly difficult for most of us to accomplish. The reason for this is we fail to make practice a habit, habitual behavior. When practice becomes a habit, it also becomes very easy because there's none of the self-talk, such as, I'll practice later today, I'll practice in an hour, I'll practice when I get this done, I can't get it today, so I'll practice twice as much tomorrow when I have time. Does any of this sound familiar? That type of self-talk is counterproductive and exhausting. So, how do we make a practice routine habitual? You must schedule practice just like you schedule everything else that's important in your life. If you and your friends are planning to play golf this week, for example, it's not going to happen unless you agree on a time and a place. Even going to work is habitual. Most people don't have the luxury of showing up when they want. For many, the habit is 8 a.m. every weekday. If you can accomplish that, you can make guitar practice habitual too. To form a consistent practice habit requires commitment to both day and time. I know that sounds too much like making guitar a work project like so many other tasks in your life, but truth is, when you create a consistent schedule for your practice sessions, it actually makes the whole process easy because your mind isn't occupied with the should I or shouldn't I process. So here's how to form an instant habit. Most likely your phone has apps for alarms, calendar, and reminders. I use an iPhone and prefer the Reminder app. If you've never seriously used the program, it takes a little effort to drill through the layers to get precise results, but for this type of thing, you'll select a weekly reminder. Then it will give you access to days of the week. I select Monday through Friday. For my practice session, I set 2 different alerts. The first is a heads up. Hey Doug, you're going to practice guitar in a half an hour. Then I set a second alert for a half hour later, the actual practice time. I like to know that the practice session is coming. That way, if I'm engrossed in a project or some personal matter, I've got practice on my mind in a half hour and I'm not taken by surprise. So that's my preference. It may not work for you. Then again, you might need 2 or 3 reminders before the practice session. It's a personal thing. To many, this seems over the top and restrictive. Truth is, scheduling important matters in your life will set you free. Instead of lying awake at night thinking about out-of-hand finances, why not schedule a weekly time to stay on top of the bills? It makes everything easier. Okay, enough about practice. Let's begin today's lesson. This is the beginning of a 5-week program. Each week we'll cover a new diatonic pattern. This is similar to the 5-week pentatonic program. Now, in previous versions of the course, I grouped these 5 lessons into a single lesson. It sure seems like that would accomplish a lot more, right? That's what I thought in the past, but the problem with that approach is you can't make these patterns automatic that quickly. All 5 patterns become somewhat of a blur, and when you need to recall them on the fly, you can do so only with some hesitation. You have to think about it instead of it being automatic. It's necessary to use repetition on each pattern for at least a week. So today we begin with the first diatonic pattern. It's equivalent to the first minor pentatonic pattern. It's useful to practice them together because you'll often be using them simultaneously. The diatonic pattern includes the same 5 notes as found in the equivalent pentatonic pattern. The only difference is the diatonic patterns each include 2 half-step intervals. Those are the 2 half-step intervals. Later on in the pattern. So these are all half-step intervals. The pentatonic pattern includes none of these half steps. Here is the first pattern in A natural minor. Begin practicing this slowly, then over the next week, gradually increase speed. By that I mean move the metronome up 1 or 2 beats a day, but never play it faster than you're able to play it accurately, with precision, and in time with the beat. Your first assignment is to find the fastest tempo that you can play this without making mistakes or hesitations. That's the starting point. Every day, try to play it a little faster. To increase speed, 2 things are necessary. Repetition, as I've repeated throughout the course, and attention to technique. When you reach what seems to be a plateau, the way to get past it is to find a more efficient way to move your fingers. Fingers must be close to the fretboard, try not to lift a finger until absolutely necessary. That's difficult and will be something that you'll accomplish over time. Still, if you wonder why you're not making progress, review your playing technique. Record a video of your playing and review the video. Are your fingers moving efficiently as I just demonstrated? Are your fingers angled correctly? Now that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They start playing with their fingers angled like this and then wonder why they have a problem reaching the notes, and your joints don't actually work properly like this. Try to keep your fingers parallel to the frets. Now if you back up the video and watch my playing, you'll probably see that I'm a little bit this way. So I don't mean exactly parallel, but strive for that. To get the most out of this lesson, don't just play this as a natural minor. Move it to a different key each day. It will make learning this pattern twice as effective. Instead of A minor, move it to C minor. Same notes in the same order, just move the pattern. Exercise 2 is the diatonic scale ascending, going up the scale, and the pentatonic scale descending, going down the scale. Notice that this first diatonic pattern is equivalent to the first pentatonic pattern as explained earlier. The natural minor scale includes the following 7 chords: minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major, back to the A minor. You can create chord progressions using these 7 chords in different combinations. The progression should start with an A minor to sound like a natural minor. The reason I say to sound like a natural minor is because these 7 chords are the basis of 7 different modes in 7 different keys. Same chords in the same order, but they're 7 different modes. If you're unfamiliar with this concept, it sounds bizarre. All of this will become very clear over the next 5 weeks, and we'll take it a step at a time. For this week, let's practice A natural minor leads over exercise 4. I want you to do your own improvisation. So instead of showing you a complete lead, exercise number 5 is a lick in A natural minor, and it goes something like this. So use this lick as a reference to create your own patterns. Practice it over exercise 4 and add notes and licks from A natural minor to complete your improvisation. So here is exercise 5 with the on-screen tab. This is your lesson for the week. You should be practicing at least an hour each day. Spend about a half hour on this week's lesson, then 15 minutes reviewing material, and another 15 minutes tackling your weak areas. See you next week.